northwest coast of the United States as well.
Sure. This struck less than an hour ago, and so, they do the math, and they say that waves should start to appear. The question is, how high will the waves be? There is one report that one of the ocean buoys about 100 and some miles away from Alaska did just recently have a 35-foot wave.
I think for Americans, we hear tsunami and it takes us back. Do you remember the supermodel Petra that was involved in the tsunami? Was that in Indonesia years ago? Thailand, and so it reminds us of that and scares us to death. So I'm glad these folks are listening to the warnings and getting out. Except for the guy who's videotaping this, looks like he's going the wrong way.
So the minute this happened, quickly on Fox and Friends, first I went to Janice Dean. Janice Dean's been working this to find out the latest and where the danger might lie. Janice, what can you tell us?
It's going to take some time, and obviously the reports are going to be coming in minute by minute. But what I can tell you is that this is a very large earthquake, and Alaska is no stranger to earthquakes or tsunamis. They've had 4 of them in the past. So this is what we're dealing with. This is actual information that we are getting right now. So this is the earthquake that we were talking about. It was at one point 8.2. They have downgraded to 7.9, 173 miles southeast of Chiniak, Alaska. The depth is 6 miles. And a 7.9 earthquake is strong, although the biggest earthquake that they've ever had was in 1964, and that one was their largest ever, measured at 9.2. So although this is a big earthquake, they have seen and experienced larger earthquakes. 130 lives were lost because of that earthquake and the tsunami. As you mentioned, we have tsunami watches and warnings all up and down the coast, from Alaska's coastline down towards British Columbia, extending all the way south towards Southern California. So this is an extensive tsunami watch that extends all the way down towards Los Angeles, getting information minute by minute. But as we look back in history, again, Alaska, no stranger to earthquakes or tsunami watches or warnings. This was their biggest one, 9.2 magnitude. That's talking about where they lost 131 lives. So when we talk about magnitude, 8 or higher is a great earthquake. Now that it has been downgraded to 7.9, that's a major earthquake. We don't know how high the waves are going to be, but people are urged to take caution and move to higher ground, especially along the Alaskan coast. So here's what we deal with in terms of magnitude. We only see a magnitude 8 or greater an average of 1 a year. So right now it's 7.9. It's pretty rare, but we are along that ring of fire where they typically have earthquakes. So they are no stranger to earthquakes around Alaska, but see a tsunami watch and warning extending as far south as California, Southern California. This is a big deal, and we're going to be following it minute by minute here in the Fox Extreme Weather Center. Back to you.
All right, JD, thank you very much. That's on the West Coast. We will keep you posted. Meanwhile, let's go out to the East Coast, and as we look at the U.S. Capitol, it will be business as usual today. After one work day on furlough, government employees will be reporting back to work. The shutdown has ended. The Senate yesterday voted 81 to 18 to essentially give the Democrats what Mitch McConnell had offered them all along.
Republicans said we're soon going to consider legislation to protect DACA. Democrats agreed. They decided to reopen the government. So as you were saying, furloughs end, military's funded, and federal services and operations resume.
And so-called moderate Democrats and some Republicans got together and they began to break leadership down. Liberals are very mad at Senator Schumer for, they say, caving. Moderates say, I don't even know why we did this. Joe Manchin said, this basically was a waste of time. He worked it out with Susan Collins and others. And hopefully, I think that a lot of both sides will go bypassing leadership who seem dug in and detached and stop going along like sheep and start doing the right thing, where Republicans have to try something different. They won. And they have to learn how to win. So what do you do now? Do you put your opponent's face in it? I say no. I say you won this clearly. Even Britt Hume tweeted out last night, I don't remember in all my years in Washington where Republicans won so clearly from a shutdown. In fact, Donald Trump tweeted this out.
He said big win for Republicans as Democrats cave on shutdown. Now I want a big win for everyone, including Republicans, Democrats, and DACA, but especially for our great military and border security. Should be able to get there. See you at the negotiating table. I'm glad he said that. that, because he's saying, yes, it was a win for Republicans, but let's move forward. Let's work together as a team.
Right.
Democrats, Republicans, we're going to fix DACA. And going forward, let's try to focus on solving problems this way versus shutting down the government when we're all pretty much on the same page anyway.
Yeah,
They got to get to work.
Don't shut down the government over something. Everybody, 70% of the country wants a DACA fix. They did not want the government shut down. This is also a big win for Donald Trump. Remember, Senator Schumer, through the weekend had suggested, I went in and I tried to negotiate with that guy, but it's like negotiating with Jell-O. I've heard from a senior White House official that apparently, you know what Chuck Schumer offered the president to get him to go along with the DACA deal? Offered him the entire wall. The whole wall.
Is that just a rumor? Why wouldn't the president say, okay, let's do that?
Here's the thing. The president didn't want just a wall. He also wanted to end chain migration and do something about the visa lottery system. And he said, you know what? That's not a deal I can do. I said I wanted these 3 or 4 parts. I want them all, not just a wall. So ultimately, the president won too.
Well, I think there was a difference between appropriation and saying, okay, you have the wall like we had 5 years ago, and actually appropriating the money to build the wall.
Well, apparently Schumer said, I'll give you the money to build the wall.
All right, so the couple of things. Now it's not, you have 3 weeks, and Mitch McConnell could easily walk away and say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Well, he'll never be able to have him be trusted again. He's got 3 weeks to work this out. He says we're going to have an amendment process, we're going to have a hearing process, we're going to put something forward. So not comprehensive, but something in terms of in exchange for the DACA fix. If he gets to work now, it probably will get something. But if you're going to wait 2.5 weeks again, while, by the way, not getting a 2-year budget, so everyone can budget their individual budgets, like the Defense Department and everything else, then it's going to be a problem. So get to work now, and let's have updates on how you're doing.
So they're going to have to work on a budget and find a budget to fund the government for 2 years within the next 3 weeks, and they're going to have to work out an immigration plan.
Yeah.
Think that's going to happen?
I think so.
I hope it is. I hope it is.
Well,
They've been a little slow in the past, though, so not as optimistic.
We'll talk to Sarah Huckabee Sanders about that. She's going to join us at 8:30 Eastern Time. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. We told you the story yesterday that on Friday, the Department of Justice turned over to the House and Senate investigators a whole bunch of text messages between Peter Strzok and his girlfriend at the FBI. There they are right there, the lovebirds from the FBI, both anti-Trumpers. Well, then it was revealed that apparently, while they were able to produce something like 350 of them, there are 5 months of their text messages that are missing. And the FBI said, you know what? The problem was there was something with the Samsung phone, and apparently our system, our software screwed it up. Well, now the Attorney General says that's not right, and he's checked with the Inspector General, Mr. Horowitz, and they're going to try to get to the bottom of it.
He said, I'm going to leave no stone unturned to confirm with certainty why these text messages are not now available to be produced, and we'll use every technology available to determine whether the missing messages are recoverable from another source. I think he does need to go one step further and definitely recover these messages. They released 375 to Congress. We read those text messages. We read some of them to you. But there are 50,000 text messages between these two lovebirds. And what's interesting is the day that we're missing 5 months, and the very last day of that 5 months, that was the day that Robert Mueller was tapped to be special counsel to investigate the Trump collusion.
Oh, a lot of stuff is missing.
Very interesting.
Or is it missing?
Meanwhile, yeah, there's some technology firms who offer a myriad of ways how to recover it.
Doing here to sabotage Trump ran the risk of being exposed. If there are incriminating texts that prove, for example, the Trump-Russia story is entirely made up, you think they're going to leave those hanging around for somebody to find?
And the strange,
somebody will find them.
And the strange thing is, Andrew McCabe, who seems to be in the middle of this, and they're certainly working under him, evidently there's been pressure on Christopher Wray. Can you get rid of this guy? You know, he seems to be a little bit of a problem. And Christopher Wray says, not only am I not going to get rid of him, if you make me, I'm going to quit. So everything, I guess he's backed off. Why is he having allegiance to Andrew McCabe? Why would he want a fresh start?
Why are these the two officials from the FBI, these lovebirds, why do they still work there?
Right, I'm not sure.
That's such a good question. You got to hope the Inspector General has talked to them. I was talking to one of the investigators on Capitol Hill, and they've got a theory. They've looked at the emails and text messages so far. There is a theory that Mr. Strzok, remember, he's the one who changed the language from gross negligence, which is criminal, to extreme carelessness. You know what they did that when they did that? You look at the dates. They did that the date that Ted Cruz dropped out. Now you connect the dots. Well, if Ted Cruz dropped out, remember we saw from some of their earlier pages a text between Page and Strzok that, oh my goodness, it could actually be Trump. So clearly, if he's the one who changed the language on that same day, he was trying to help Hillary so that Hillary could beat Donald Trump.
Yeah,
that's one of the theories they're working on.
By the time Ted Cruz dropped out, that was when it was pretty clear that Trump was going to be the Republican candidate.
If that's true, that's bad.
From firing Comey to maybe entrapping, my words, not technical, entrapping Flynn. So much happened in those 5 months, and they just so happened to click back into gear after Robert Mueller's appointed special prosecutor.
Somebody can find him. Let's see who does. In the meantime, on this very busy Tuesday coming up, you've heard Guy Benson on our program many times, but his latest message is going viral.
That I'm a Christian, a patriotic American, and a free market, shrink the government conservative who happens to be gay.
Guy says that should not be surprising. He's here to explain why.
Plus, Pete Hegseth is having breakfast with friends in Illinois. Pete, what's going on?
That's right. We are at the Riverview Diner in Montgomery, Illinois, outside of Oswego, outside of Chicago. I guess, would it be called Dick Durbin country? No, they don't want that label. No, that's not what we're talking about. But he is on the other side of negotiations of the Schumer shutdown. We're going to ask the people what they think about our government, President Trump, and the future of this great country. Not the pundits, but the people here at the Riverview Diner. Stick with us on Fox & Friends. We'll bring it to you.
Government conservative who happens to be gay. When it comes to my political beliefs, my orientation is only one part of the story. It's not the totality of who I am. What I mean by that is my values define me.
That video going viral with more than 500,000 views on social media yesterday, less than 24 hours after it was posted. Joining me now with more is political editor for townhall.com and Fox News contributor and our friend Guy Benson. Hey, Guy, great to see you.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so why did you come out with this video? This video was for Prager University, and you spoke out about your sexual orientation, but you put that as a footnote, and that's how you decided to come out that you were gay. But what were the issues that are most important to you? You say this doesn't define me, right?
Right. So basically, Prager University is this incredible platform. Since I just checked my phone a few moments ago, we're up to almost 750,000 views on this video in less than 24 hours. And they talk about at Prager University a lot of different issues, and they have people talking about issues that matter to them. And this is an issue that they said, hey, let's talk about identity politics. And sometimes as a gay conservative, Ainsley, I feel almost like I'm being asked by people to justify my existence. How can you be both of these things? And the answer is very easily, because just because I happen to be gay doesn't mean that I have to prioritize gay rights issues as my #1 issue all the time. I don't. I care about shrinking the size of government, keeping America safe and strong. I'm pro-life. There's a lot of things that inform my worldview and my values, and who I am sexually is just one element of that, and I think that's totally fine. And I wanted to do the video not to go around telling people, oh my gosh, I'm gay, you should care about my sexual orientation. I think it should be irrelevant. I just see so many people who are not just gay, but who are black and conservative, who are Hispanic and conservative, women who get so much heat because they don't shoehorn their beliefs into this little tiny box that the identity politics lefts insist that they ought to inhabit. I think that's wrong, and I wanted to speak out on that.
Guy, you know, things are changing. You're right. People expect all women to march in the marches and put every woman in this one box. They think if you're gay, you need to vote for the Democrat. If you're a white man, you're going to vote for the Republican. If you're white, you're going to be a Republican. If you're black, you're going to be a Democrat. But you're saying this is a new era. You show a graph that was interesting to me in that video. You said between 14 and 27% of LGBT voters voted Republican in the past 4 elections.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's already a minority of a minority. I understand that, but still, if you do the math, that's millions of people. So I hear all the time from fellow right-leaning members of the LGBT community, and they feel like they are so alone. And part of my message is, you're not. I know that sometimes the gay left is very loud and they can be bullies from time to time, but there are millions of us out there, and it's up to each of us to decide what our political priorities are and who we are as people. And it's just a permission slip. It's okay. Let's think critically and make our own decisions. And if we disagree, that's fine too.
All right. Thank you so much, Guy, for being on with us.
Thanks, Ainsley.
You're welcome. And if people want to watch the video, you should go and find it. It's great. It's Guy Benson, and it's Prager University. All right, we've told you about Google and YouTube targeting conservatives. Well, it turns out they reportedly have secret speech police. Our next guest found that out.
Thunderbolt jets to Afghanistan for the first time in more than 3 years. They'll support American and Afghan troops. It's the latest sign of escalating military operations and involvement against the Taliban under the Trump administration. Also breaking right now, a volcano erupts, triggering a deadly avalanche at a ski resort. You can see the black ash spreading down the mountain in central Japan. One soldier is dead. Several others are hurt, buried under the snow during ski training. And another Fox News alert, a frantic search underway at this hour for 5 people missing after a series of fiery oil rig explosions. The blasts happening in Oklahoma, shooting flames and black smoke into the air. It took hours to put the fire out. 17 employees were rescued. Steve.
Thanks, Jillian. Google reportedly has over 100 agencies monitoring extremist content. Well, our next guest fell victim to the monitoring by YouTube, which is owned by Google, after blocking his video in over 24 countries with no explanation why they did it. The video in question was how he felt about being called a white supremacist. YouTube has since lifted the ban after pushback on social media. So why the ban at all?
Well, here now is psychology professor at the University of Toronto, author of 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Great to see you again, Dr. Peterson.
Very nice to be here.
So tell us what happened with this video on YouTube.
Well, I was speaking with a very well-known YouTube host, H3H3. It's Ethan Klein, and we talked about a lot of different things because YouTube interviews are 3 hours long. And he cut a piece of it where we discussed accusations that had been leveled at me for being alt-right and far-right and white supremacist, these ridiculous allegations, and put that video up, and it was banned in 24 countries. Now, maybe it was banned because it had the words white supremacist in it, but that's actually quite a problem because perhaps you want discussion of that. So that seems to be what happened. He complained and they backed down. But, you know, he's got clout because he has 4 million YouTube subscribers, something like that. Yeah.
Are you a white supremacist?
No.
Why do they call you that?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because in the world we live in right now, if you stand in opposition to the radical left, which I certainly do, then the easiest strategic move for the radical left people is to call you some pejorative terms so they don't have to deal with you. Yes, well, not just to shut you down, but also to damage your reputation, to cause real harm. It's not merely a matter of shutting you down. There's more malevolence to it than that.
They want to take you out and they want to silence you.
Yeah, and they'd be just as fine, just as good if there was some pain involved during it.
Right. Do you how do you feel about some of the blowback that's leveled at you? How do you handle it?
Well, I've learned over the last year, if you're careful what you say to begin with, and I am very careful with what I say, and then if you're attacked, that you don't back down and you don't apologize, things flip around extremely quickly. And now I'm in a position where if I get attacked, it almost inevitably, fingers crossed, turns out to be of benefit to me.
Ultimately, though, the reason we're talking to you about this is apparently that Google has got this secret police of 100 agencies, and we don't know exactly who they are.
Right.
They don't identify themselves, and they're trying to filter out content.
Right.
What bothers you most about that?
Well, I understand why they have to do it to some degree, because they don't want ISIS promoting their particular brand of pathology.
And that's a good thing to take down terrorist video.
It's certainly something that has to be contended with. I think that it's necessary for Google and YouTube and these large social media channels to make what they're doing absolutely transparent to the public. And there's two reasons for that. It's not only because of the human decisions that are involved, it's because they're building algorithms to screen things even before they're put up.
Right.
And that's resulted
I would
in the
understand if they are, excuse me for cutting you off.
No problem.
I understand if it's the ISIS video, or if you're a white supremacist and you're lashing out and saying you're going to have hate crimes and this. That's putting other lives in danger. We need to take down those videos and get involved, I believe, and police needs to get involved. But what you did, it was a speech and they just took a clip, and you're defending yourself why you're not a white supremacist, correct? And
yes,
they took
that's
that
what
video
happened.
down.
Yeah, well,
What's
it shows
the
you that
danger in that?
well, it shows you that the algorithms are faulty. But I know lots of people on YouTube have been demonetized. That just happens all the time. If you're a conservative, center conservative, I would say, then the probability that if you have a discussion that it's going to be demonetized is extremely high. And major league players on YouTube, like Dave Rubin, for example, are demonetized constantly.
What does that mean,
as well.
demonetized?
It means that Google decides that their content is not fit for advertisers. And they seem to do that, I would say, in a very arbitrary way. Now, the issue is that this needs to be made public. We need to evolve mechanisms to determine how shared social media are going to be screened so the real pathological material remains under control, the stuff that violates law. But we need, it can't be done behind closed doors.
And look out for Facebook, too. They're right behind. They're trying to correct what they say went wrong in 2016, and many people think that's Donald Trump winning.
Right.
I want to talk about your book, New 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. What do you mean? You're fighting against chaos in our society?
Yeah, well, it's increasingly young people in particular find themselves disoriented in our world. It isn't clear to them how it is that they should grow up and take their place in the world. And I would say that's especially true for young men. And so the book is a series of rules, some tongue-in-cheek, some dead serious, and a description of why it's a description of why most of the meaning that's found in a genuine life is to be found as a consequence of adopting responsibility, and also it's a discussion of why it's so necessary to be careful and to tell the truth in a deep way, and it's an explanation of that, not just an injunction or a finger wagging.
Can you tell us one rule?
Put your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. So, and that's an antidote, I would say, to some degree, to this idea that's been fed to young people that the best thing they can do in the world is to become a social activist of some sort and complain about what other people are doing to hurt the world instead of growing up and fixing things on their own, which is a much better pathway.
Don't be afraid to listen to people, right? They have counter views. People want to shut you down rather than debate you. You want the debate.
That's rule 9.
They say you're dangerous. Are you dangerous?
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Why? Why are you dangerous? Don't look dangerous.
It depends on when you see me, I think. Why? Because I think that someone who's trying to be good should be dangerous. Like, otherwise there's no force to you. There's nothing to contend with. You know, we have this strange idea that's especially, again, foisted on young men, that the pathway to virtue is through weakness and harmlessness. And that's just simply not true. That's the pathway to uselessness and resentment. You should be able to be a monster and then not be one.
C.S. Lewis said there are different definitions of love. There are clearly different definitions of danger, too.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for the
Congratulations
invitation.
on the book.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Meanwhile, Pete is having breakfast with friends in Illinois this morning. We're going to check in with him coming up next.
They have to relax a little.
Never giving up. What we
Today's birthday is brought to you by Red Lobster. See food differently.
So right now it's time to go to higher ground, at least 100 feet above. Get out of your homes, get your family, and be safe, Kodiak.
Well, you got a Fox News alert, as you just saw. Millions of Americans under tsunami warnings right now after a powerful 7.9 earthquake rocked Alaska. And if you're saying I haven't heard that, well, it just happened. It's right near Kodiak.
The powerful shock striking in the middle of the night. Local reporters saying emergency crews fear lives are at stake and are urging everyone to get out of their houses and get to higher ground if you're near the shore.
Yeah, there are lines of cars, as you can see, people trying to escape the wave of fear. Most of the West Coast, Hawaii, and parts of Canada are all under the tsunami watch at this hour. And now San Francisco's emergency management is also telling people to prepare to evacuate. Our senior meteorologist, Janice Dean, is here with the breaking details for us. Janice?
We haven't gotten a lot of information from the last time we reported, and that's why every minute is crucial. And, you know, like a hurricane, we can usually forecast these things. But unfortunately, when it comes to tsunamis and earthquakes, it's very hard to forecast this type of activity, especially under the ocean in the Alaskan basin. But here's what we know, 7.9 magnitude earthquake. And if you live along the coast, if you live in low-lying areas, you're being told to seek higher ground and evacuate the area. Now, the one thing I can tell you is that they have canceled the tsunami watch for Hawaii. So this information is going to continue throughout the next couple of hours. They're probably going to see waves around the coast of Alaska in the next couple of hours. So we'll get more information. But the concerning thing is this is a 7.9 magnitude earthquake. That's a large earthquake, and it is in close proximity to Alaska. So it's not going to take a lot of time to start to see these first waves move in. And these tsunami waves can move 500 miles an hour. And the other concerning thing that Steve mentioned earlier is that a buoy recorded a 32-foot rise in height. And that is concerning to me as well. So again, this is a minute-by-minute forecast on when these waves are going to start to inundate the Alaskan coastline. And the other crucial thing I want to make mention is that the watches, the tsunami watches, extend all the way southward down the California coastline to Southern California. That's important as well. They won't see the potential threat that, say, Alaska does, but there still is the potential of water rise as it reaches along the West Coast. So very concerning, obviously, for folks in Alaska. We will keep you up to date. I haven't gotten a lot of information, but as soon as we get the latest, I will bring it to you live from the Extreme Weather Center. Back to you.
All right, JD, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Janice.
Man, oh man. All right, now let's go out to Pete Hegseth. He's dropping by diners all across America from time to time. Today, we've dropped him in Montgomery, Illinois. He's got a microphone. There's a bunch of food behind him. Tell us about the Riverview Diner, Pete.
Riverview Diner is fantastic. If you haven't tried it, the trucker skillet and the skirt steak, which I've already had this morning, are fantastic. Great people here in Montgomery. It's outside of Oswego, which is outside of Chicago. A high tax state, as we talked about during the last tax debate. Tell me a little bit, what is your take? This is the home state of Dick Durbin, which you may not love to acknowledge, but he has been in the middle of this debate about where our country goes in a shutdown. What do you make of how the president has handled the high-stakes debate over DACA and the budget?
Well, I think he's handled it very well. Quite honestly, I would like to see America and our politicians move towards a budget versus all these CRs.
Continuing resolution.
Correct. Yeah.
Why do you think it is that Washington can't do that at this point?
Too much partisan fighting. I mean, we need to move to the middle, find common ground, and work together.
But it seems like Chuck Schumer blinked in this instance, right? There was a showdown over, do we shut it down over DACA or not? It appears that President Trump won this one. What are your hopes that he gets out of a future deal on immigration?
Well, I do hope that we come up with a comprehensive plan for immigration. The immigration program is broken. We do have, my brother-in-law is here with me, who is from Mexico, who is now a U.S. citizen. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws, and we need to have people doing this legally.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Matt, you're in college right now, a freshman, Navy ROTC, which you point out with a Marine option on that, for sure.
Yes.
As a college student, we've talked a lot about college campuses. What's the environment like if you support Trump on college campuses these days?
Most colleges, probably not to look down upon. It's, being a Trump supporter on the college campus is kind of like an odd thing, kind of an odd one out. Of course, you get your more conservative campuses, especially in Ohio, I know. But overall, probably, if you're a Trump supporter, not going to go too well on a college campus. And, the left side has a tendency to make sure that's really well known.
Sure.
If you're wearing a jersey or anything like that.
You've decided to serve your country as a freshman in college. Why? What made you say, I want to do this?
It's really kind of been a dream since I was a young kid. I wanted to initially enlist, and then kind of started looking at the college route too, and ROTC came up, and I've always had such a great respect for people I've served, and will always have it, and I feel like it's just my duty to pay forward for the people that have already risked their lives and put their lives down.
There's an American dream for you right there. We're going to move to one more table over here. Jim, how you doing?
Doing fine.
Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
The president, 1 year in, how do you feel like he's doing?
I think he's doing superb so far. I think that
Why?
Because of all that the companies and the tax breaks and everything like that people start seeing in their paychecks starting in February, I think it's phenomenal. We've needed it. I'm also for DECA. He's got that laid out. He's wanting it done right, and I'm for it 100%. That we take care of we're a land of laws, and we're a land of immigrants. And so we need to get on the show and get out of this partisanship and get with the program and get down to business and do the budget.
You know, that's what the president is banking on, is that if you get past the budget, then you can have an honest conversation about how we fix our immigration system, build the wall without all the budget stuff. We've got a Korean War veteran here who I want to talk to right now, but we don't have enough time. So stick around in the next hour. No, next hour. We're going to get to him. Yeah. Listen, he's a salty guy. You're going to get him later on the Fox News channel, because no way we would bypass him. I can't shortchange him, guys. I can't.
It's so funny. They'll tell you everything when you're face to face, but you put that microphone in front of them, they don't want a part of it.
Yeah. Oh, I think he will.
Yeah. You think? Well, why was he running away?
Because we ran out of time.
Got it.
Because he's got strong opinions, and I don't know if
we're going to need a couple of minutes to hear him, and that's coming up.
I can't wait. That's a good tease.
Blow the break.
All right, Pete. Thank you very much.
All right, Vice President Mike Pence wrapping up his Middle East trip with a visit to one of the holiest sites in the world. We are live with details coming up next.
And Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff says that explosive FISA memo should not be released because Americans wouldn't understand it. Really? Judge Napolitano is going to weigh in on this. I think he's got an opinion. He thinks you're smart enough to understand it, folks. He's coming up.
At least we know he is.